Okay, here we go. The home straight, ladies and gentlemen. I love this bit. It's kind of like having dessert after your main course. You've consumed your mains. Now it's time for dessert. It's when we get all those sweet lessons, we get all those sweet learnings, and we distill them down. We concentrate them into some really nice compact take homes, and we do that today in the shape of a really nice, relaxed, organic discussion panel with these three fine gentlemen that you see on your screen in front of you. You've heard from me plenty, and you know who I am, Dr. Rico, team lead of the sport nutrition team at SSI. And joining me today from the left-hand side of your screen, you've heard from the man himself from Hong Kong already this morning, Dr. Raymond So. I've had the pleasure of knowing Raymond for some years now, Director of Elite Training Science and Technology at the Hong Kong Sport Institute. Next to him on the sofa, it's like the Graham Norton show, isn't it? Next to him on the sofa is Dr. Frankie, Head of Sports Science and Sport Medicine at SSI. And then last but not least, Dr. Chee Yong, Head of Sports Science at NYSI. I've had the pleasure of knowing Chee Yong for many years as well now, and really enjoy his chat and his conversation. So without further ado, we're gonna wrap it all up and bring it home with a really nice conversation around what we've heard so far. Gentlemen, welcome along to the panel. Good to have you here. It's my role really just to kind of keep the conversation going and bounce a few questions between us and really just synthesize what we've heard, our learnings, and really aggregate, our knowledge to date through not only COVID, but through this whole symposium. Chee Yong, we kicked the symposium off, didn't we, with Strand 1, which was a real youth-centric strand, harnessing potential in our youth. How did that go for you as the man at the helm and the man at the wheel? How was it for you, Chee Yong?
I'm just doing a mic test. You guys can hear me clearly,
yeah,
right?
I can hear you great.
Yeah. Before I start, been a while since anyone called me sweet, so thanks for that introduction, Rico.
You're welcome.
And also want to thank the organizers from SSI and NYSI. I know Danny and a few of the crew has been putting real hard work to bring us to this line finally. And yeah, I think what happened over the last 4 days was really, really refreshing for a year of unprecedented events. I think what I'll do is I'll jump straight into rounding things up. Took me a whole night to think of how to do this actually, because there were so many good things going around. So I finally found a way out. I'm going to use what Craig Harrison used in his first PowerPoint presentation under the effective learning cycle. So he highlighted 5 areas. So I'm just going to chuck everything into these 5 areas, and hopefully you can lead me straight home after that, Rico.
Good.
All right, man. So I think, first of all, there was 5 areas that literally helped me learn. And I think I took a leaf out of Harrison's PowerPoint to try to best to synthesize whatever was spoken. So these 5 areas are opportunity, interest, curiosity, goals, and motivation. It might be 2 points too many, but I'll try to be successful. So just cracking on with the first one, opportunity. I guess when we talk about opportunity, is what's that event that fueled the need for change, right? And I think when we went through the first day, the one that really caught my eye was the holistic ecological approach, where things was micro and macro level. And I think without COVID-19 around, we really didn't have time to look at things at so many levels. And when it was all broken down into that kind of granularity, you start to wonder the kind of work that can take place just besides sports science. And that truly amazes me that there are still so many areas that we could work together with the NSAs, with the athletes, and even with our counterparts, both internationally and locally as well. So saying that opportunity to do this on the whole is just like this symposium, right? We've got a little bit of everything for everyone, from the athletes, the coaches, and administrators. So a huge opportunity there. Hopefully, after this, Frankie and me can sit down to really, really chart out the next 1 year of work, so we can really make use of this environment and this opportunity to do some cultural shift changes that will put us in good stead. The next one is interest, and interesting under interest, Harrison did say that it must be something that fuel your emotion, right? And it was so refreshing to look at coaches giving their talks, and there was some really good quotes coming out of those coaches' presentation. And it was interesting to look at Singapore side and the international side as well. Like Miss Teo, we knew her, like I knew her when I was an athlete, when I was younger. And this famous coach bring up all the series of volleyball players that make it to the finals. But to hear her and what she has done, just really refreshing as well. And looking at Kelvin as well, and his role with some of the athletes from YOG, and as that with KNU success as well. And yeah, I could see he was really nervous because he was presenting somewhere near me. But gosh, man, to see him go through that journey is pretty inspiration as well. And also to look at Chee Yong as well, how and the work she has pouring into just putting out a group of athletes for the last 5 years to be challenging from some of the titles, both regionally and internationally. So for me, that is real emotion. Couldn't put a price to that, and to see it all pan out and recollected time and time again, just fuels the desire to keep moving, despite the COVID-19 as well. Next one is curiosity. So this is the part, right? Like what really piques my interest moving forward. I'll think that the stuff that has been spoken about TID, skill acquisition are really fascinating. Something really left you as well, right? For Singapore, so small a country, what do we need to do versus the giants of the world? And to know that early success doesn't really predict anything except for a few things, and it does highlight that opportunity for us to work towards creating the pipeline that we want and we could as well. Question is really how are we going to now use all this to get to it, right? And I think the skill acquisition part provides a little outlet as well for us to do that, right? Have we been doing things correctly, or can we do things even better? And I think the stuff spoken by our own in locally from the likes of Jai and Jonathan as well, to Tim with that, and we see that thinking out of the box, it's not really that far away from us, right? So we have these experts both locally, and now we have this information coming in from internationally. Things like constraint-based learning, non-linear. I think Jonathan was just firing away, telling us how climbing around your house is another way to do things differently. My wife will agree, rather disagree to that. She doesn't like things differently, so not going to climb around the house. But look, COVID-19, we just got to try, complementary or whatever terminology we put around it. I think in the first strand, we really try hard to try to walk a bit out of the box that we used to have, and fantastic stuff from some of the speakers as well. Last 2 points, goals. Personally, for me, I feel that we should achieve this phenomenon actually highlighted by this psychologist, Richard Tedeschi. He spoke about post-traumatic growth. I think it's really important to now use all this information to understand that the moment COVID-19 is managed, I won't say go away, once it's managed, we shouldn't strive for normalcy, we should strive for growth. And a lot of things spoken, not just only in strand 1, even in strand 2, put us in to understand that there's an opportunity here, man. Put it all together, it might bounce off higher than where we left off. I think that for me leads on to the last point about motivation, right? We are small. We always knew we were small, but we're never given up trying to punch above our weight. And maybe with this COVID-19, we could now have that refresh opportunity, right? Now it's all game on. Everybody's equal. We all come back from 1 year break, and so the offerings from knowing how Denmark did their work, how Australian did their stuff. I think the biggest theme out of this is how do we talent optimize. I like the word talent optimization. I learned that word when I was in Japan from another counterpart, Taisuke. I think all of us know. So instead of saying it transfer, no one is a commodity. We're not going to transfer any talent, but we're going to optimize human potential in this case. I think that's the message that needs to be put out properly in the best positive manner. And like to end off my spiel with this famous quote from Miss Teo. I think she put it really simply, but so accurately as well. I think most of you would have heard her say that at the end of the presentation when the last question was asked. She said that athletes are the real champions, not the trophies. I think we just need to keep reminding ourselves that whatever we build, it needs to be an environment, and our environment needs to be safe, needs to be strong, and it needs to be forward-looking. And yeah, that's my 5 minutes spiel as promised. Rico, now your turn to bring me home.
Yeah, good man. Hey, it's some really nice linkages across the threads as well. You know, you talk about you mentioned, growth coming from discomfort, a little bit like the lobster, and Singapore punching above its weight as well, and deconstructing training and kind of recreating play, and training in an informal way like that, much like children do. I think there's a lot that we can learn from children. That's great. Good to see our old mate Haresh as well, Dr. Haresh from La Trobe University.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's he going? I didn't see his presentation, but I know what he's on. Yeah.
He's still going on about his sleep, where he shared the most now that he's stuck in Melbourne for many months. So
I was in touch with him during the lockdown. They just come out of another lockdown.
Yeah, that's right.
He's had a lot of opportunities, publishing a few papers, and he's had a lot of opportunity to do a bit of writing. So that's nice. Yeah. Hey, thanks for the synopsis, Chee Yong. Really appreciate your thoughts. And like I say, it's talent optimization, and it's the travelator, isn't it? It's taking youth and optimizing them as much as you can, and then introducing them into the high performance ecosystem, ready to rock and roll and ready to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. We talk about skill acquisition, and we never forget the basics, but we're always trying to push and sharpen the edge of the sword as well, which brings us to the second strand of the conference, the high performance development strand, pursuit of excellence. Frankie, a lot going on in this one as well for us, wasn't it? I mean, we had a great day with David Pine and Marcus as well on the first day, talking about the contributions of sports science to sport performance, from like a global context and funneling down into the local context in Singapore with Marcus. And then, Danny just got all excited, when he heard he had a whole day to talk about strength and conditioning, and, some really nice segues into biomechanics and sports psychology and nutrition as well through that afternoon. And then today, certainly for me as well, a really different kind of a day, looking at COVID and, how that's changed our lives and how we change, growing from that experience, but also, planning and evolving and adapting, and kind of we're going to come out the other side, even better than we went in. So, yeah, how was Strand 2 for you, Frankie? I guess within the context of sports science within Singapore, I've only kind of been here around 5 years. You've been in the game, for many years here, and you'll have seen a lot of things change over time too.
Yeah, thanks, Rico. Really enjoyed your presentation this morning. To wrap us off, and thanks for moderating this session as well. It's good to be among friends here, including Raymond from Hong Kong. We've known each other for many years, and it's nice to be on this panel just to chat and help us wrap up this symposium. And like Chee Yong, I'm really very heartened that we managed to undertake this 4-day webinar symposium. And not for the pandemic, I don't think we would have done it in this format.
Yeah.
It took us a while to confirm all the proceedings between NYSI and SSI. Really many thanks to the organizing team and the EMC, the speakers, the moderators, the panelists. They are our scientists, but they are also the organizers. So it's really not easy. So we want to thank our speakers, both local and from overseas, the moderators, the panelists, and of course the audience out there. Not forgetting also our Parliamentary Secretary, Mr. Eric Chua, for his opening speech. And later on, after this panel discussion, our Sport SG Chairman, Mr. Conin Tong, will also give us his closing remarks. So Professor Pine talked about looking back. Maybe I will share a little bit of history. Just as Marcus mentioned yesterday, that SSI is a new kid on the block. SSI was formed only in June 2011 while we were still in a temporary location. We only moved into the Sports Hub in 2014. We started our first SSI Symposium in 2012. And in those early years and editions of the SSI Symposium, 2012, 2013, 2014, our focus was really to establish close connections with our Asian counterparts like Hong Kong, Japan, China, Korea, Malaysia, Qatar, and so on. And that eventually led to the formation of the Association of Sports Institute in Asia, or Asia for short, in February 2015. And our colleague and good friend from Hong Kong SI, Dr. Raymond So, is here with us today. He just presented to us this morning. Happy to have him in this panel. And he is instrumental to the formation of Asia as well. Maybe later on, he can chat a bit about that. The SSI Symposium took a break in 2015 when we were all full hands on deck in hosting the SEA Games and the ASEAN Para Games, and also in the Olympic year in 2016. And incidentally, during that time, the NYSI was formed in 2015, and NYSI became an Asia member in 2017. Subsequently, we came back in 2017 with a rebranded Singapore Sport Science Symposium and established the overarching theme of From Youth to Elite, Harnessing Potential and Pursuit of Excellence, which stayed with us till today. You know, we want to keep our aspiration and the momentum going. This would serve as a good platform to address a whole range of topics, from talent development in youth to applications of sports science and medicine in elite senior athletes. We desire to streamline the efforts of the NYSI and SSI, as what Chee Yong just mentioned, and to contribute effectively to the development pathways of youth and senior athletes. We want to level up our domestic knowledge and capabilities, just like what we are doing throughout this 4-day symposium, to enhance Singapore's positioning in international youth athlete development and elite sport network. We also want to use this platform and many others to gain more mindshare with our stakeholders to further promote science and excellence. I'm very thankful to Professor David Pine for accepting our invitation to kick us off for Strand 2 of this symposium. I regard him as a very strong academic and practitioner in sports science. I was privileged to have met him and known him for many years when we were both at the AIS. At that time, I was fully immersed in the Australian elite sports system for several years leading up to the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. He mentioned about the joint learning between empirical and experiential, which later on Marcus also mentioned something similar, which is academic and applied. Essentially, we want to value the robustness of good science, and importantly, the experience of coaches and athletes in the sport context. That is really, really important. Marcus then went on to present the first case study of this symposium of our world champion para-archer, highlighting the importance of the interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary approach to sports science support, which Professor Pine also spoke about, and also the rest of the speakers. And we really want to acknowledge that case studies are important, not just in the applied sports setting, but becoming more so in the research space. More and more scientific journals are welcoming case study and report submissions. And case studies of champions could often be so-called the outliers by conventional research definition, and therefore be discarded. On the contrary, we want to embrace the outliers. We need to expand the notion of what evidence-based means, as Professor Pine alluded to us. And I agree with Professor Pine when he said that it's a superficial view when we think that sport and academia is all about competition. There's always a big element of cooperation. I think sports scientists, coaches, and athletes love to spar with one another. And we can all benefit and get better from cooperation and learning from one another, both locally and internationally. So a platform like this symposium is such a great example, right? We have speakers and friends from all over the world coming together to share, to engage one another, we reference each other, we learn from each other. Marcus mentioned that we are the new kid on the block. Indeed, we are. We have the aspiration to learn and to cooperate with our partners from wherever you are in the world. We can all benefit from partnering up better. So do look us up for especially our international viewers. and even our local folks. Yeah, and to echo what Marcus said, we have an open invitation for you to come on board with us if what you have heard over the past few days resonates with you. I really enjoyed Dr. Tim Sukumel's presentation that sets the stage for this year's emphasis, which is strength and conditioning. And for each edition of the Singapore Sport Science Symposium, we would typically pick a focus on one of the sport science domains, and this year is S&C. Tim's presentation was so well packed and delivered. I think he was able to convince the audience in very quick time that muscular strength has such great impact on sport performance and injury risks, before he went on to show us how we can get stronger through a variety of ways, basic and advanced. And all that sharing paved the way for Kelvin, for Xiao Yi, for Danny, and for Andrew to further build on the applications of S&C. And more case studies with our top Singaporean athletes. I really enjoyed the stories. Yeah, I want to commend our folks for the amazing work done, much of which are often unseen and unheard. So I'm glad Danny and the team got the opportunity to present their untold stories. Well done, guys. Really appreciate that. And because this is a sports science symposium after all, therefore we also have our folks from the other sports science disciplines deliver their pieces as well. Dr. Lukman spoke about the biomechanics team's approach to optimizing sports performance through structure, strength, skill, and strategy, and his work with Pencak Silat. Joyce spoke about the key focuses of psychological support for Olympic-bound sailors. Smooth seas don't make skilled sailors. A lot are happening behind the scenes, talking about the interdisciplinary approach as well. Leanne spoke about the untangling challenges of an Olympic-bound gymnast from a nutrition perspective. And like the other speakers, she reiterated the importance of an interdisciplinary support team of science and medical staff. She elaborated on how the team is helping the athlete to cope with the demands of an aesthetic sport, which comes with weight and low energy availability issues, injury management, academic challenge, circadian rhythm disruption, and of course, nutritional challenge. And earlier on, we heard from Mantong from the physiology team, a young chap who led and presented the findings of the circuit breaker survey with our athletes and coaches to give us a sensing of how the lockdown had affected the athletes, training load and their well-being. So well done to Mantong. Yeah, our former intern did his final year project with us, and now he's secured a scholarship to further his studies. Well done. It's a great example of how we can really bridge academia with applied setting. Mantong being an athlete himself, being a coach himself, really happy for him to continue to pursue this track of his postgrad studies in sports science. And Rico, as usual, really enjoyed your presentation this morning. I like the way you put the stories together, putting arms around shoulders, staying away from hard data and science for this last day of the symposium, how we talk about care and support, how you bring up the stories of when we were hunkered down by the pandemic, how we managed to uplift ourselves, to create something meaningful and impactful for us, always being grateful for the opportunities given to us, embracing the champion's mindset, all the various hours of resetting, refining everything that we do, building a community of practice, to grow with pressure and with discomfort. And also want to thank Raymond, really a good friend now because of Asia. We have been meeting almost every other year, besides here in Singapore, either in Hong Kong or even in some other overseas conferences and all that. Yeah, I'm really glad that you are able to share with us the experiences that Hong Kong SI is doing to cope with the pandemic. Yeah, so really there's so many things that we can talk about, but really happy to be on this panel to really help us wrap up this symposium. And yeah, let's hear from Raymond maybe later on. Yeah, Rico, back to you.
Thanks, Frankie. You've got a very good memory. I had to take a million screenshots to remember all my stuff. I've got a wonderful team in the background. Hui Ying, Desmond, and Renault, and they're on the Instagram, the SS Sports Science _ SSI. Look it up on Instagram. We've been punching out stuff all through the course of the conference, and they've done a wonderful job of capturing everything that's been flowing out. A big hats off to them. And Frankie, quite right. You talk about learning talk about growing, you talk about networking, and we talked a lot about community. And whilst we concentrated and focused on our community here in Singapore, we're part of a global community, aren't we? And part of an Asia-wide community. Dr. Raymond So, founding member of the Association of Sports Institutes Asia. I had the pleasure of giving a talk on that platform during the Asian Games a little while ago now in Jakarta, and met a few colleagues that are plugged into that network. Raymond, can you just remind me when did you launch that association back in the day? It was a few years ago now.
Okay, thanks. Regarding the launching of the Asia, he's talking about maybe 6 or 7 years ago.
2015.
2015. Yes.
February 2015.
Okay, 5 years ago. So we officially announced was in Tokyo.
I see.
Yes, so that we signed the MOU and then to start the operation of the Asia officially. But before then, the discussion among the Singapore, Japan, Qatar, and Hong Kong was talking about another 5 years ago, during the time when we were in London, that we already started the discussion about setting up the Asia. The reason majorly for us to start the development of the Asia platform is we believe that the future is in Asia. And unfortunately, that the development of the sports science, sports medicine, or the elite training system in Asia is not even. Some countries were developing in a very good scale, while many other countries were not very good or even don't know how to set up. So that we would like to have a platform that to help each other in Asia to develop a platform that suits different systems. And then hopefully, finally, that the whole Asia, the elite performance level can be raised up. So that means that in the world arena, it's not just the European countries or American countries and win all the medals. Asian countries can share some of them. And then that with that platform, if we are in an even sharing platform among the Asia, Europe, and America, then I'll say in the whole arena will be stronger, and then can maybe lead up to more major events to be organized in Asia countries to benefit all of us. So that is the idea of having the Asia development.
That's great. I was going to ask you what the catalyst was for the formation of that association. And I totally agree. I think the future is here. It's just a land of opportunity here, a global, hub for research, development, and innovation. And there's a real thirst and drive to, right from the youth level to develop sport and skill acquisition and get young people involved in sport and and embrace the utilities of sports science as well, to enhance or optimize their development, right through to the top end. And Singapore recently winning its first gold medal at the Olympics. It's a really exciting time to be plugged in here. I'm personally really enjoying it as well. So yeah, thanks very much, Raymond, for that recount. It's been a funny old year, gentlemen, hasn't it? 2020. 8-9 months into COVID, we've all been living through it and working through it and solving complex problems and looking after people and looking after ourselves. I just wonder, what your own personal reflections are of the year to date, within your own respective institutes. Chee Yong, it's not easy looking after young people at the best of times, let alone the worst of times. Has there been like a standout lesson for you, a standout reflection in terms of navigating your own work, within this mess that's COVID at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. Like what we pride ourselves previously on, the face-to-face interactions, the relationship we built suddenly just got taken away from us overnight, right? But I think the whole of that circuit breaker clearly shows one thing, that we need to reinvent, and we need to reestablish communication lines. And how do sports science support look like, in the future, where you can only have a team doctor, a coach, and an athlete go on to any major tournaments, right? And these are the things that me and Frankie has been. I think we chatted over a few times. Like the skill set of a sports scientist. How does it look like in the future? And the communication between the scientists and the coaches. Previously, it was hard to even say face to face. Now, with the barrier of digitalization, right smack in between, what works and what doesn't work. But look, it has been challenging, but I would say that it has been equally exciting. I think part of the job about being a sports scientist, or anyone in sports, is that we get to live every day differently, and trying to embrace this change. But for sure, man, there's a lot of upskilling of let's say skill sets that we need to look at. I think one thing that if you look really carefully is this presentation. There was some presentation that really focused on how to look at data, albeit retrospectively. And now moving forward, how do we turn data into something that's predictive as well? I think if we can predict something, and we can work for it in the time that we have without meeting the athlete, that would be the best way out, right? So even as an administrator trying to make things work, just start to show that we really need to think out of the box now. And I'm glad that we all get to work from home and work out, have more time, right? If you're in the office, the emails and etc. But yeah, so for me, it's been a big change, but I wouldn't say it's negative. And in fact, I would think that with the kind of like what Raymond was saying, kind of progress that Asia has, in terms of even just analytics, computing knowledge, and etc. We really have a chance to put one foot forward to catch up with the rest. And I think the fact that Singapore is so small, we have land size finally to our advantage, right? Previously, we would say that we don't have spaces. Now everybody is the same, right?
Yeah.
And how do we get things differently? And I think Kunalan just posted something as well. He wants something for coaches, of this magnitude. I say, yeah, hell man, let's do it. We have the time now. Put it together, cook something up, and let's see where it brings us. I think this is the best time to really look at our own culture and assess the advantages we have rather than the disadvantages. And do something like what I think Professor Pai have highlighted as well about transdisciplinarity work. I really believe that today we only can do something that's transdisciplinarity if we know what we're trying to solve in the context of the culture. So we'll say that, I wouldn't say it's totally positive. I'm taking it on the chin and just moving on. And hopefully that when the light is clear, the end of the tunnel, I'm actually stronger for what it is.
I think the champion's mindset is really clear and evident there, Chee Yong, in your words. And, you talk about opportunity. I totally agree. I think Singaporeans are wonderful at adapting and evolving when you look at where the country's come from in the last 55 years or so. And I actually think we're going to roll through this just nice. And I agree, come out even better on the other side. Thanks for those thoughts, Frankie. You're in a similar position to Chee Yong. You're leading a really dynamic and complex operation there at SSI, but in straddling, two different spaces, both high performance sport and sports medicine as well. As if you didn't have enough to do, why don't you throw that on top of it? How's the last 9 months been for you, and your critical reflections around that?
Yeah, for me, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we are well cared for here in our environment. I think we were hunkered down a little bit during phase 1, but we managed to pull ourselves up, and I'm thankful that for phase 2, for the sports science and medicine staff, we are able to work in our spaces. We're thankful that we're given the approval, so-called, to be in the clinic, to be in the gym, to be in the labs, as and when we need to work with our athletes. That really gives us that flexibility and the freedom to do so, so that our work with athletes are not compromised, while still keeping strictly to all the safety management measures. You know, even though the organization's general posture is to work from home, the clinicians, the specialists are able to work on site, and that's really good. And even in the sports medicine space, we're thankful with our partnership with Changi and with Sing Health. Even when during the phase one lockdown, despite the closure of SSMC, SSI, we were still able to keep a small segment of SSMC at Novena open. So those athletes who require urgent treatment by the doctors and physios were still able to access that venue. And so that's really a bonus for us. Yeah, and the team, you guys are amazing. Everybody is eager to contribute, eager to be creative. It's been shared with all the various presentations over the last few days. I'm thankful for the team, and we can only continue to care and support for one another so that we can uplift one another, not to be hunkered down, but to really ask ourselves, what can we be grateful for? How can we find purpose and meaning in the work ahead, and continue to look forward, continue to embrace the controllables, things that are not within our control, like global travel, competitions, and so on. Things that are not within our immediate control, let it be. Yeah, do our part. And I'm really glad, even the last 4 days, as you heard all the presentations, all the speakers were all very positive. I don't think anyone has that gloom and doom posture, you know. So let's keep it up, and let's look forward to even Tokyo 2021, as we're all aiming for.
Nice, Frankie. Yeah, we're going to talk about moving forward in a minute. Controllables, that's a term that we use in sport all the time, isn't it? And I think a really, sage thought for us moving forward. And Raymond, it was really nice listening to your presentation, because and seeing all your pictures really took me back to the Hong Kong Sport Institute, where I first got introduced to the environment there. First met you back in 2016 when I came. Lovely to have an invitation to come and speak at your conference back in 2016. You've got a slightly different environment there, of course, because you house athletes and you house coaches. It was interesting listening to you talk about that. I was curious about how perhaps the COVID scene impacted your food service there, and just some of your reflections from trying to manage, your group, through the last 9 months. Is there one or two things that really stand out to you in terms of reflections and lessons?
Yes. In the past 9 months, actually, to me, is a very busy time, I would say. Because as you said, we try to house or to maintain the safe environment for our athletes we train. Okay, your first question about our nutrition or catering services. Actually, we maintain all the services to all the in-house athletes and the staffs. But we switch the service style from buffet style to dessert style, so that instead of in a buffet, they pick their own food, that they place the order, and then that the food will deliver to their table. So that will stop the contact or the opportunity for any of the mixing up of the utensils during the food arrangement. So you can see that the most important thing along the past few months, all the sports science and sports medicine people are trying to think how can they to perform their duty while reducing the risk of getting the COVID-19 problem. So all this is they need to get the information, get the advice, and also to try and then to talk to the athletes and coaches to implement all these measures, so that all the athletes, all the coaches and the staff are trying every effort to try to maintain the environment, because that is very important. We can see that the reason we try hard to do this, because we see the eager of our athletes wants to be maintaining the training. so that they show that they want to be trained. They want to have the training, so that we provide the training. So that is some kind that the cohesive force between coaches, athletes, and staff are getting stronger and stronger. And also, although that the COVID-19 brought us a lot of the unpleasant things, but the good thing for institute, even for the sports scientists and the sports medicine people, is during this period of time, especially in Hong Kong SSI in the lockdown situation, the relationship, because we are forced to work together. Our athletes and the coaches cannot leave the venue. They have to be here. Our service provider, the sports science, sports medicine people, to work with them. In the past, for example, in the past years, that our psychologists can only meet our athletes, say every year, maybe talking about 20 or 30 times, but now in 1 month, it's already 20 times. So that the relationship, the knowledge transfer, the confidence level among all these people are enhancing. And also one of the good things on the SSC side, that our athletes, because they need not to go out, they need not to compete, they can go through a very structured program on SSC, so that their strength also develop, and also they enjoy the training because they see the benefits. So that all these create an environment is very different from the past. So that one is in their life, and then I believe that also create a very platform for the future cooperation between the sports scientists and the coaches. So that's something we learned.
Well, it's really wonderful to hear that recount, and quite admirable that you were able to keep all of your services in play, you know, right throughout that, and really heartening actually too to hear how, you know, there's been so many positive experiences coming out of the opportunity for you guys, and we've had, you know, similar positive experiences here in our own growth. Yeah. Which you know, the word growth, it kind of leads me to think about our concluding thought before we bow out, gentlemen, around, you know, moving forward. The future is nigh. It's right on the doorstep. You know, the new normal as we move into phase 3, it's not going to be like, you know, pre-COVID times. It's going to be different for a long time now. And thinking about, you know, training and competition, and, you know, we mentioned the Olympics there. Chee Yong, where are your thoughts at the moment in terms of the future, and what's perhaps one gold nugget consideration or sharing that you could give the people at home?
That's a good question to ask. Not sure if my mates or my colleague would think that any of my nuggets are gold, but let's try. I think the reconsolidation of like what I say, the job ability of the sports scientist is really one key factor. I think within NYSI, we are looking at not just digitization, you know, we're looking at digitalization, trying to understand how to use those type of data to help us do work that doesn't need us to be face to face with the athletes all the time. I think that's a real key component of it as well. And I think on everyone's mind is actually also the mental well-being aspect of coaching and athletes as well. No, they don't have the best stories in the last 2 years to come. You know, how do we carry on, you know, in the realm of youth athletes, provide a safe environment? I think it's really important for Singapore because we have population as a limitation. The least we can do is to provide a conducive environment, a safe environment, so that people are willing to be talent optimized, right? And you know, the biggest part is to use this and just build the sports culture that we need, and let everybody understand that, you know, there's still life, you know, at the end of it all, and you know, no matter where you are, no matter what goals you did not achieve, there's always other opportunities to help you achieve. I think if you ask me, and if we can turn things around in the next 5 years and really build that pipeline of athletes that we need, you know, with the skill set that we learned from this symposium and many more symposiums to come, I think that would be one step forward, including like what Coach Kunalan has said, you know, creating the SKOPs necessary for coaches to share and etc. I think those are in the works. You know, now is how to really reconsolidate, magnify the strength that we need to show, and put it on the forefoot, and get ready to traject or lift off, I guess.
That's great. I mean, that's a great summation. Frankie, a couple of words that you might like to add to that in terms of moving forward. We've heard a lot of good stuff there from Chee Yong.
Okay, for me, the word that came to mind is uplift. I think in whatever capacity and spheres of influence that we have, we should try to uplift one another, peer to peer, scientist to scientist, scientist to athlete, athlete back to scientist, scientist to coach, coach to scientist, all the different interactions, knowing that many are hunkered down, some are still hunkered down. So I think it's important for us to uplift one another. So as you see others being uplifted, I think our own space will be more positive for us to maneuver as well. Yeah, so that overall well-being is important for us to stay focused and to keep growing in our own spaces, to do what we do best, and to continue to encourage others so as to encourage ourselves.
Thanks, Frankie. Uplifting and encouragement, yeah, and moving forward. That's fantastic. Raymond, if I could just conclude with yourself, what does the future look like for you guys over at, in Hong Kong?
Okay, thanks. I agree with Frankie and Chee Yong that it's important for uplifting and also that keep on moving. But along the past few months, I found that information, especially accurate information, is very important. So that I trust that for our future, sharing the information among us, among our partners, are very important in order for us to advance further. Without accurate and timely information, that our moving, our operation, or all the process planning will be in the wrong direction. So that means that through such kind of the symposium, for different platform, for us to discuss, for us to exchange the ideas I would say that in an honest way is very important for us to move further together, because the challenge is ahead. That for no matter is some kind of the local competition, regional competition, then to the Olympics, that the competition and also all the challenges are ahead. But this is not some kind of the competition between us. It's competition between the athletes all the time. So that whoever do their best should get the glory, but doesn't mean that they are the winner while the others are the loser. It's just working together to achieve a better result is our goal.
That's great, Raymond. Yeah, I mean, you're contrasting an outcome-focused process with, a process-focused process. And, to summate from Chee Yong, digitization, and that's really, coming from innovation, from Frankie, uplifting, what we do, and from yourself, Raymond, sharing knowledge, cross-pollinating ideas, and from that, the world, isn't it? So, so wonderful, gentlemen. I'm getting in trouble here because we've gone over time, but I just really wanted to respect this opportunity to hear from your good selves. It's a very rare opportunity indeed to get people on the sofa like this and really reflect on, 4 days or so of tremendous, knowledge sharing, as you say, Raymond. So, guys, thanks so much for taking the time out from your busy schedules. Raymond, absolute pleasure to kind of virtually have you in Singapore anyway. Hard to have a red wine with you when, we're so far apart, but next time. And, yeah, Chee Yong and Frankie, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll toast to that, absolutely.